Hi, I'm Brandon Donaldson, and have you been wanting to debug your Java web application with Visual Studio Code? Well, in this video, I'll be covering debugging the web application with Apache Tomcat. So let's get started. First off, I want to show you the source code that I'll be using for this project. It's in GitHub, and I'll leave a link to this repo in the description below. Okay, so on to the project. So this project that I'm using is a Maven project. I use a Maven archetype to generate it, and I left the instructions for generating that project in the GitHub README. So first off, I want to look at the project structure, and I put all the sources or named my application in the server directory. The server directory contains the pom.xml, which is the Maven instructions for the application. If I look at the pom.xml, you'll see that I have the dependencies declared at the top and the build instructions a little bit lower down. I don't do much in this instruction set in this video. Keep your eyes peeled. I'll cover this more in detail in future videos. Okay, so I have a Maven project. I have a source directory, which is under source Maven Java. I have a web app directory, which is under source main web app. Within that web app, I have the server instructions, which are the web.xml. And I have a generic entry point, which is called index.jsp. So when I load up my web page, it shows this. Within the project, I have an API directory or path, and that loads a servlet. So if I look at the API servlet, and by the way, the very first time you load a Java file, you'll see a Java overview pop up. Okay, so back to the API servlet. It's a simple servlet that outputs a simple response, and it's writing the response back as API works. And then I say try API get message. So what is that path? So if I look at this servlet and I look down, I'm writing back some JSON. So if I look at the web.xml instructions, this contains my servlet configuration. I don't have a complicated configuration here. I have one that says or maps the servlet from API servlet to the path of /API. And you can see that the entry point class that is declared the servlet class, com.brandondonaldson.api servlet. Okay, so that's the basics of my project. And now I'm ready to debug it. So how would I do that? Well, it's a Maven project, so that means it generates the classes and puts them in the target directory. Now there's a lot of different ways you can debug and configure Java projects. I stuck with the defaults. So that means the target directory contains the classes, although I can't actually run the web app directory from target, or I can't run it from source main web app. Source main web app may contain some of the resources, but not all, because in a compiled or war exploded scenario, you'll see the classes are put under the web inf directory. So how do I get to that stage? One of the ways you could do it is go down to the Maven projects, and it contains the plugins, and you can run the plugins under the Maven project. So how does that look? So the one I'm after is the war plugin. The war plugin, I want to explode that into the target directory. So I want to run the war exploded. I could click on the run button, or I could right click and go run or debug. So click run. This will explode the web app directory with all the generated resources into the target directory. Now when I generated my project, I named my project or application server. So the server is my target web app directory. And you can see if I look under the web inf, which is the directory that contains the server instructions, you can see the classes directory. So I know I could run this as the web app directory. Okay, I'm ready to debug. So what I want to do is right click on the generated web app directory, the war exploded web app directory, and I'm going to click on debug Tomcat server. What this will do is copy this source web app directory that is generated to the Tomcat server web hosting web app directory. So I'm going to click on this, and if I were to re-click on this and come back to it, it's going to blow it away and copy the sources back to the Tomcat server directory, which is good if you generate new sources and you need to copy it to the Tomcat server web app directory so you can see the changes on a website. Okay, so I'm going to click on Tomcat debug as a server. Okay, I don't have a server set up, so I need to set up a server. So I need to add a server. And what I do is I like to add a server. You could do it this way, but the other way I'd like to do it is go down to the Tomcat servers. What I like to do is click add here, and I need to select a Tomcat server binaries. And so I've already gone to Tomcat, downloaded the latest core zip. Now I download the latest core zip because it contains all the binaries needed to run to the servers. So I've downloaded 7 here, and what I want to do is select the latest servers. I want to select the latest server at the time. It's Apache Tomcat. It's probably going to be higher when you see this video, but just select the binaries, the core from Tomcat. Okay, so if I select these, I'll have added my server. Okay, great, I've added the server. Now I want to change some of the server configuration. I can click on Open Server Configuration. If you look, you can see it's the server.xml. So you could change this to match your staging or production services for testing locally. Okay, if I wanted to change the output port to 8181, I would change the host port here. But in this case, I don't need to change anything in this view. I'll keep the defaults and move along. Okay, so the next step I want to do is I want to right click on the server web app within the target directory because I ran the Maven war exploded and that generated that directory. Okay, so I want to come down to debug on Tomcat server. Okay, great. It started up the Tomcat server and now I'm ready to debug. Okay, so I've created another launcher, and let's just open up the launcher's configuration. And I want to show that it's a Chrome launcher that will launch Chrome on localhost 8080. So it's easy to launch Chrome from VS Code as well. So I'll click Run and launch Chrome. Okay, so it launched and it's running at the root. And since my web app is named Server, it's under the server context. So I'm going to click on Server. I can click on the index.jsp, try API. This goes to the servlet /API directory. Then I can click on another servlet and it responds with some JSON. Now I want to change it and see how that is done in VS Code. So how do I change the code and update it? So I'm going to go back, open up the file explorer. Let's minimize the Tomcat servers and look for the source code. Now, obviously, I don't want to change it in the generated directory. I want to change it in my source code directory, which is Java Web App, which is Java com Brandon Donaldson. Okay, so if I look at the JSON output, I want to just add a character and update it. So I'm going to go like this, add some 2s, save it, and I just want to show this in context. I'll go back to the web server and I'll click, oh, it didn't update. Okay, so how do I get it updated? I'll go back to it. Well, up here we have a hot reload and replace. So I'm going to click on this lightning button and go back and reload it. And there we go. It now has the changes. Okay, so that was pretty easy. Okay, so that's great. So that's one way to change it. So I'll change it back. Okay, now I want to set a breakpoint and see if I can breakpoint on the code and inspect the call stack. So I'll set a breakpoint and go back to the browser and I'm going to reload the browser. Okay, it has stopped and paused on the code, so now I can inspect the variables and look at the call stack. So if I go to the debugger context over on the left, I can see the variable output and call stack. So that's pretty cool. I can do that in VS Code as well. So that's it. It's simple to debug a Java web app with VS Code. Thanks for watching today. Follow me for more tips and tricks on debugging, and I'll catch you later.